Emilio Aguinaldo y Famy Qsc was a Filipino revolutionary, politician, and a military leader who is officially recognized as the first president of the Philippines and led Philippine forces first against Spain in the latter part of the Philippine Revolution, and then in the Spanish-American War, and finally against the United States during the Philippine-American War. He was captured in Palanan, Isabela by American forces on March 23, 1901, which brought an end to his presidency. In 1935, Aguinaldo ran unsuccessfully for president of the Philippine Commonwealth against Manuel Quezon. After the Japanese invasion of the Philippines in 1941, he cooperated with the new rulers, even making a radio appeal for the surrender of the American and Filipino forces on Bataan. He was arrested as a collaborator after the Americans returned but was later freed in a general amnesty. Early life and career. Emilio Aguinaldo was born on March 22, 1869 in Cavite el Viejo, in Cavite, to Carlos Aguinaldo y Jamir and Trinidad Famy, a Tagalog Chinese mestizo couple who had 8 children, the 7th of whom was Emilio. The Aguinaldo family was quite well-to-do, as his father, Carlos Aguinaldo, was the community's appointed gobernadorcillo in the Spanish colonial administration. He studied at Colegio de San Juan de Letrin but wasn't able to finish his studies due to outbreak of cholera in 1882. Emilio became the cabeza de barangay of Binikayan, a chief barrio of Cavite el Viejo, when he was only 17 years old to avoid conscription. In 1895, the Mara law that called for the reorganization of local governments was enacted. At the age of 25, Aguinaldo became Cavite Viejo's first gobernadorcillo capitan municipal, while on a business trip in Mindoro. Personal life. On January 1, 1896, he married Hilaria del Rosario. They had 5 children: Carmen Aguinaldo Melencio, Emilio Aguinaldo Jr., Maria Aguinaldo Poblatia, Cristina Aguinaldo Sante and Miguel Aguinaldo. Hilaria died of leprosy on March 6, 1921 at the age of 44. 9 years later, on July 14, 1930, Aguinaldo married Maria Agansala at Barasoan Church. She died on May 29, 1963 at the age of 82, a year before Aguinaldo himself. Revolutionary and political career. Philippine Revolution. On January 1, 1895, Aguinaldo became a Freemason, joining Pilar Lodge No. 203 Imus, Cavite by the code name Colon. He would later say, "The successful revolution of 1896 was Masonically inspired, Masonically led, and Masonically executed, and I venture to say that the first Philippine Republic, of which I was its humble president, was an achievement we owe largely to Masonry and the Masons." On March 7, 1895, Santiago Alvarez, whose father was a Capitan Municipal of Noveleta, encouraged Aguinaldo to join the Katipunan, a secret organization led by Andres Bonifacio, dedicated to the expulsion of the Spanish and independence of the Philippines through armed force. Aguinaldo joined the organization and used the nom de guerre Magdal, in honor of Mary Magdalene. The local chapter of Katipunan in Cavite was established and named Sangguniang Magdal, and Aguinaldo's cousin Baldomero Aguinaldo was appointed leader. The Katipunan-led Philippine Revolution against the Spanish began in the last week of August 1896 in San Juan del Monte. However, Aguinaldo and other Cavite rebels initially refused to join in the offensive, alleging lack of arms, while Bonifacio and other rebels were forced to resort to guerrilla warfare. Aguinaldo and the Cavite rebels won major victories in set-piece battles, temporarily driving the Spanish out of their area. On February 17, 1897, Aguinaldo and a group of Katipuneros defeated Spanish forces led by General Camilo de Polavieja at the Battle of Zapote Bridge in Cavite. The The province of Cavite gradually emerged as the revolution's hotbed, and the Aguinaldo-led Katipunan had a string of victories there. Tejeros Convention and the execution of Bonifacio. Conflict within the ranks of the Katipunan factions, and specifically between the Magdilan, Magdiwang, led to Bonifacio's intervention in the province of Cavite. The rebels of Cavite was rumored to have made overtures about establishing a revolutionary government in place of the Katipunan. Though Bonifacio acknowledged the existence of the considered Katipunan as a government, he acquiesced and presided over a convention held on March 22, 1897 in Tejeros, Cavite. The Republic of the Philippines was proclaimed, with Aguinaldo being elected as president, Mariano Trias as vice president, Artemio Ricata as Captain General, Emiliano Rigo de Dios as the Director of War, and Andres Bonifacio was elected Director of the Interior. The results were questioned by Daniel T. Rona for Bonifacio's qualifications for that position. Bonifacio was insulted and declared as chairman of this assembly, and as president of the Supreme Council of the Katipunan, as all of you do not deny, declare this assembly dissolved, and I annul all that has been approved and resolved. Bonifacio refused to recognize the revolutionary government headed by Aguinaldo and reasserted his authority, accusing the Magdal faction of treason, and issued orders contravening orders issued by the Aguinaldo's faction. In April 1897, Aguinaldo ordered the arrest of Bonifacio on some information alleging Bonifacio's involvement in some events at Indang. After the trials, Andres and his brother Procopio were ordered to be executed by firing squad under the command of General Lazaro Macapagal on May 10, 1897 at Mount Buntis, Marigondon. Cavite facts leading to Bonifacio's execution to this day remains questionable, as Emilio Aguinaldo had opted to have the Bonifacio brothers immediately exiled rather than have them executed. By Narbato, the Spanish army launched an attack which forced the revolutionary forces under Aguinaldo into a retreat. On June 24, 1897, Aguinaldo arrived at Bayac Narbato in San Miguel, Bulacan, and established a headquarters there, located in Bayac Narbato National Park in what is now known as Aguinaldo Cave. In late October 1897, Aguinaldo convened an assembly of generals at Bayac Narbato, where it was decided to establish a constitutional republic. A constitution patterned closely after the Cuban Constitution was drawn up by Isabelo Artacho and Felix Ferrer. The Constitution provided for the creation of a Supreme Council composed of a President, a Vice President, a Secretary of War, and a Secretary of the Treasury. Aguinaldo was named President. From March 1897, Fernando Primo de Rivera, first Marquis of Estella, the Spanish Governor-General of the Philippines, had been encouraging prominent Filipinos to contact Aguinaldo for a peaceful settlement of the conflict. On August 9, Manila lawyer Pedro Paterno met with Aguinaldo at Bayac Narbato with a proposal for peace based on reforms and amnesty. In succeeding months, Paterno conducted shuttle diplomacy, acting as an intermediary between de Rivera and Aguinaldo. On December 14–15, 1897, Aguinaldo signed the Pact of Bayac Narbato, under which Aguinaldo effectively agreed to end hostilities and dissolve his government in exchange for amnesty and 800,000 pesos as an indemnity. The documents were signed on December 14–15, 1897. On December 23, Aguinaldo and other revolutionary officials departed for Hong Kong to enter voluntary exile. 400,000 pesos, representing the first installment of the indemnity, was deposited into Hong Kong banks. While in exile, Aguinaldo reorganized his revolutionary government into the so-called Hong Kong junta, and enlarging it into the Supreme Council of the nation, returned to the Philippines and Philippine Declaration of Independence on April 25. The Spanish-American War began. While the war mostly focused on Cuba, the United States Navy's Asiatic Squadron was in Hong Kong, and commanded by Commodore George Dewey. It sailed for the Philippines. Several days later, Dewey agreed to transport Aguinaldo from Hong Kong to the Philippines aboard the US McCulloch, which left Hong Kong with Aguinaldo on 16 May. Arriving in Cavite on 19 May, Aguinaldo promptly resumed command of revolutionary forces and besieged Manila. On May 24, 1898 in Cavite, Aguinaldo issued a proclamation in which he assumed command of all Philippine forces and established a dictatorial government with himself as dictator. On June 12, Aguinaldo issued the Philippine Declaration of Independence from Spain, and on June 18, he issued a decree formally establishing his dictatorial government. On June 23, Aguinaldo issued a decree replacing his dictatorial government with the revolutionary government, with himself as president. First Philippine president. The First Philippine Republic was formally established with the proclamation of the Malolos Constitution on January 21, 1899 in Malolos, Bulacan, and endured until the capture of Emilio Aguinaldo by the American forces on March 23, 1901 in Palanan, Isabela, which effectively dissolved the First Republic. Aguinaldo appointed two prime ministers of the Philippines in his tenure, Apolinario Mabini and Pedro Paterno. He had two cabinets in the year 1899. Thereafter, the military situation resulted in his ruling by decree. Philippine-American War. On August 12, 1898, American forces captured Manila during the Battle of Manila, and on August 14, 1898 established the United States military government of the Philippine Islands, with Major General Wesley Merritt as the first American military governor. On the night of February 4, 1899, a Filipino was shot by an American sentry. This incident was considered to be the beginning of the Philippine-American War, and culminated in the 1899 Battle of Manila between American and Filipino forces. Superior American technology drove Filipino troops away from the city, and Aguinaldo's government had to move from one place to another as the military situation escalated. Aguinaldo led the resistance against the Americans but retreated to northern Luzon. On March 23, 1901, Aguinaldo was captured in his headquarters in Palanan, Isabela. One of these forces was led by Gen. Macaria Sakay, who established the Tagalog Republic. On April 19, 1901, Aguinaldo took an oath of allegiance to the United States, formally ending the First Republic and recognizing the sovereignty of the United States over the Philippines. After the capture of Aguinaldo, some Filipino commanders continued the revolution. On July 30, 1901, General Miguel Malva issued a manifesto saying, "Forward, without ever turning back. All wars of independence have been obliged to suffer terrible tests." General Malva surrendered to U.S. forces in Lipa, Batangas on April 16, 1902. The war was formally ended by a unilateral proclamation of general amnesty by U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt on July 4, 1902. Post-presidency. American era. During the American period, Aguinaldo supported groups that advocated for immediate independence and helped veterans of the struggle. He organized the Asociación de los Veteranos de la Revolución to secure pensions for its members and made arrangements for them to buy land on installment from the government. Displaying the Philippine flag was declared illegal by the Sedition Act of 1907. However, the act was amended on October 30, 1919. Following this, Aguinaldo transformed his home in Cavite into a monument to the flag, the Revolution, and the Declaration of Independence. As of 2015, update, his home still stands and is known as the Aguinaldo Shrine. Aguinaldo retired from public life for many years. In 1935, when the Commonwealth of the Philippines was established in preparation for Philippine independence, he ran for president in the Philippine presidential election, 1935, but lost by a landslide to Manuel L. Quezon. During the Japanese occupation of the Philippines during World War II, Aguinaldo cooperated with the Japanese, making speeches, issuing articles and radio addresses in support of the Japanese, including a radio appeal to Gen. Douglas MacArthur on Corregidor to surrender in order to spare the innocence of the Filipino youth. He explained his action by saying, "I was just remembering the fight I led. We were outnumbered, too, in constant retreat. I saw my own soldiers die without affecting future events. To me that seemed to be what was happening on Bataan, and it seemed like a good thing to stop." After the combined American and Filipino troops retook the Philippines on 1945, Aguinaldo was arrested along with several others accused of collaboration with the Japanese, and jailed for some months in Bilibid prison. He was released by presidential amnesty. Aguinaldo was 77 when the United States government recognized Philippine independence in the Treaty of Manila on July 4, 1946. In accordance with the Tidings-McDuffie Act of 1934, he returned to retirement soon after, dedicating his time and attention to veteran soldiers' interests and welfare. He was made an honorary Doctor of Laws, honoris causa, by the University of the Philippines in 1953. On May 12, 1962, President Diosdado Macapagal changed the celebration of Independence Day from July 4 to June 12. There is no doubt that President Macapagal intended the proclamation to have that effect, although in poor health by this time. Aguinaldo attended that year's Independence Day observances. On August 4, 1964, Republic Act No. 4166 proclaimed the 12th day of June as the Philippine Independence Day and renamed the 4th of July holiday to Philippine Republic Day. Death and legacy. Aguinaldo was rushed to Veterans Memorial Medical Center in Quezon City on October 5, 1962, under the care of Dra. Juana Blanco Fernandez, MD, where he stayed there for 469 days until he died of coronary thrombosis at age 94 on February 6, 1964. A year before his death, he donated his lot and mansion to the government. This property now serves as a shrine to perpetuate the spirit of the Revolution of 1896. In 1964, his book was published entitled Mga Gunita ng Himagsakan, Memoirs of the Revolution. A second publication was made in 1998 during the 100th year anniversary of Philippine independence. In 1985, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas issued a new 5-peso bill depicting a portrait of Aguinaldo on the front. The back features the declaration of the Philippine independence on June 12, 1898. Printing was discontinued in 1995, when it was replaced with a 5 pesos coin whose obverse features a portrait of Aguinaldo. In media, Aguinaldo was portrayed in various films which featured or centered on the revolution. He was portrayed by the following actors in these films: 1992 Raymond Alsona in Bayani, 1997 Joel Tor in Tirad Pass, The Story of Gen. Gregorio del Pilar, 2008 Johnny Solomon in Baila, 2010 Lance Raimundo in Ang Palilitas ni Andres Bonifacio, 2012 Jericho Ejercito and Dr. Ejercito in El Presidente, 2013 Nico Antonio in Katipunan, 2014 Jumnairi in Bonifacio, Angunang Pangalo, 2015 Mon Confiado in General Luna.